Welcome to Talk Design Podcast, the space where creativity meets conversation. I'm Adrian Ramsey, your host, and as someone deeply entrenched in the world of design, I'm thrilled to introduce you to the minds that inspire me in the hope that they will spark something special within you too. From a design past crafting women's swimwear to pushing the boundaries of performance sportswear, from mountaineering to international yachting, to implementing systematic innovation solutions that transcend boundaries in aerospace industry. My heart remains rooted in architecture, and exploring the emotional tapestry woven by built spaces is my fascination. My journey in design has been what can only be described as a life of design. I want to thank you for lending me your ears. I'm eager to embark on this next episode together. And for those of you who prefer to watch and listen, you can catch this episode at YouTube. That's youtube.com/@TalkDesignPodcast. My guest on Talk Design today is Elise Elliott. Elise is an Australian, I'm going to say personality. She is a journalist, a TV host, a radio host, an MC, and a car nut, like an absolute car nut. And she's a surfer. So if she doesn't run you over on the road, she's going to run you over in the surf, be warned. No, she's not like that at all. Elise, welcome to Talk Design.
Thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure, trust me. I want to start off with, there was this little girl who, at some point, we're going to go cars first, recognized, other than getting from point A to B, that you discovered this love of cars. So tell me about that. You know, obviously it's a design question because it could be the sound of the engine. It could have been the shape of the fins. It could have been whatever. Take me down the road.
So Dad had a two-door Monaro in the 70s, which was just the ultimate cool car. And I remember how cool it was for him and how it made him feel. And even hopping in the back of that was great. And then the third child came along, my younger brother, and Dad had to sell the Monaro.
No, he could have given the brother back.
Yes, I know, right? And he had to buy the Volvo station wagon in maroon, which is basically, it's a prophylactic on wheels, that car. It's the sexiest.
Yeah. They just stole his manhood.
They call it the Swedish brick. And I just remember that moment when the Monaro drove off and the Swedish brick came in, and I just watched a little bit of my dad die, And I thought, wow. But then at that moment as a young child, I realized that cars are more than something to get you from A to B. They stir something in you. They can be connected to your identity. They're intrinsically linked to design and how you feel. And so I think perhaps that was the catalyst for a lifelong passion for cars. Yeah,
right. I love it because that realization that they're connected to your persona and your personality. And one of the things that I think is really interesting is at the moment, we seem to have a massive homogenization of cars. They're hard to tell apart. They don't have distinct features. And we go back to, say, the 50s and that post-war era where cars were, I suppose, status symbols. Beyond being a status symbol, they were like taken to the extremes of design.
Very much so. So take, for example, one of my favorite cars. We'll get to my absolute
one.
But one of my favorite is the Chevrolet Corvette 1963 in particular, and that had a split windscreen at the back. It's interesting because no one liked that at the time, so they got rid of it. So now if you can find a Corvette Stingray with a split windscreen, you're laughing. I pleasure of test driving one recently. They're fabulous. But the design of this car is so futuristic, so aspirational. The lines are so stunning that it would translate to today. You could drive that car today and someone would go, God, that's a beautiful design of a car. And, that was in the 60s. And That was the astronaut's car of choice, which I love. So what did that symbolize? Obviously the future, which is amazing. You look at your beautiful fins on a lot of the cars in the 50s and 60s, which was again a nod to outer space and just
it was the nod to America's space race.
Yeah, very much
and
so.
that you know, like that this possibility of another Buck Rogers type, where we're going to explore the universe.
You look at that, all those shows you watched, and I was saying this only recently, that all the shows in the 70s were like that, Lost in Space and My Favorite Martian, and they were all Buck Rogers.
And also, right down to the Jetsons.
Very much so. So that whole notion of the future in space was translated very much into car design. And I love that aspirational feel. Then, of course, you've got, those very classy English and Euro designs, the E-Type.
The Dino Ferrari, the E-Type,
And, Ferrari himself, Enzo Ferrari, said that the E-Type Jaguar was the most beautiful car in the world, which was an interesting concession from someone from not competing, but a different marque altogether. But you look at that E-Type Jaguar, I mean, from a design perspective, perhaps it shouldn't really work. It's got that really long bonnet, but it is a beautiful car. So you look at that and go, wow. And yes, my favorite car. I'm going to tease this out.
Keep it coming.
But that's a whole different thing again. And I really lament the loss of design and flair with cars today. They all look the same. They do. Even, was it Cadillac brought out a car? And I'm thinking, where are the fins? They're not there. But wouldn't you? It's their new electric vehicle. And I thought, wouldn't you, just as a nod to history,
100%,
a little, like somewhere in there, but no. So how do I know what that car is? They all look the same, and now you have all juggernauts like BYD from China coming in, and every SUV looks the same. So yes, I lament the loss of personality and design in cars today.
So you might not want to answer this, so just say no, I won't answer that. If you had to go and choose a car for today, brand new, off the lot, and keep it under $150,000, well, I know, tied your hands behind your back, and you wanted it to say that you had personality or that you were different from others, what would you choose?
We put another 0 on the end because I could answer.
No. Definitely not. I might take it off if you're not careful. I might make it $75,000.
I would say I really love McLarens.
Yeah. But that was a couple of zeros.
Yeah, that was a couple of zeros on the end because, I mean, they are supercars. I've had the absolute pleasure of test driving a few. The new 750S supercar is just a thing in my eyes of beauty. And of course, I love dihedral doors. So they're the doors like that, which is amazing because you feel like such a rock star.
Well, it's a nod to space. It's like that.
It's a bit of a nod to space. So I kind of held on to that
I got a funny little story with that. So I'm the host of Queensland's Channel 9 Dream Homes Revealed. And the other day I turn up at a site, we're going to shoot this house. And I'm standing outside and with the crew. And a guy comes in on his push bike to the house next door and he goes, "Hey, Adrian." And I'm like, I look and he's got goggles and a helmet and, the whole thing on a pushy, not goggles, but glasses. And I look and I go, "Who the hell's that?" He opened the garage and his black McLaren was sitting inside. And I went, "Oh, there you go. Hey, Matt, how you doing?" And the crew are like, "Fuck off."
Back to your question, within range, I'd probably say Mustang Dark Horse, the last of the V8s.
Yeah, right. Nice. Why the last of the V8s?
Because I'm sentimental. I love a big stonking V8. I know that's really un-PC to say.
I don't know. It's probably no worse than trying to recycle a battery.
Yeah, correct.
Or mine one.
And yes, yes, correct. And it represents end of an era, and Mustangs stir me. They just stir.
Do you know, this is a conversation I've had with many of my design friends, not on the podcast. And I think that there's been some big, woeful missed moments in electric cars that could have been show changes and also steps in new direction and innovation of beyond battery and power. If you were to go and buy a car, just like you said, go and buy that dark horse, this is the end of the era.
Yeah,
This
totally.
is it. And if you were to buy that car and garage it, oh, use it as a Sunday driver, but just revere it, look after it, and all the rest. In 50 years, you probably won't be allowed to drive it on the road because it won't have systems that will allow for it to go on a road. But you will be able to track it, which is a lot more fun than the road any day. Everybody goes in the same direction. But what you will have is the last piece of this era of history.
Very
And
much
I've got friends in America who are already doing this. They're buying and garaging like those not old, big V8s, brand new cars.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. So that's more about nostalgia, which I'm big on in cars. Look, EV is the future, and there's no denying that. I've test driven some fabulous EVs. I mean, the Porsche Taycan, 0 to 100.8, fabulous car. And what I like about that is it retains the Porsche DNA. So you feel like you're in a Porsche. And I think part of the problem with Teslas were they were so foreign and spaceshipy and unusual, and people hopped in them and they weren't sure. I guess my foreseeable problem with EVs are twofold. One, there's no cohesion with charging. It's like having with 5 different types of phones and chargers to the power of 100. So that's frustrating. Plus, in this great big brown land of ours, we have this thing called range anxiety, and it's real. You know? So this fear of like just running out of electricity halfway through. So I think they're 2 big things to overcome. But I mean, electric vehicles are the way of the future. There's this brilliant company in Melbourne that are now dropping electric motors, if you will, into classic cars, which is great. And that's a real nod to the future and the past. And I think that's quite a clever concept.
What do you think will happen in the hydrogen space?
Well, I think that we've got to look into that space. I think you can't close the door on that. I just think it needs a better marketing campaign than EV had as well. So I think a lot of manufacturers are looking at that already.
Yeah.
But I just think cohesion is the key, and we're lacking that here.
Well, they're never going to let us fill the car up by the tap. That's one thing that I'm sure of. So hydrogen has the downside of supposedly of not having a fuel cost, and because it's water that's converting. So that would be an interesting kind of transition of what people have to do. And that model doesn't seem to have been innovated. And while there's still fossil fuel, that model will be slow to be innovated, of course. You know, that's just, and while electric's in the space, but I actually think that we'll probably end up with a combo of various different things that we'll be able to decide on.
I think so. I think so.
And I'm a big fan.
You haven't asked me what I drive though.
Oh, the Mustang or the other?
A 68 Mustang, a 1968 Mustang. And it honestly, that is my dream car all my life. I wanted to drive it. And the day I actually broke into tears the day I got that car. I just love it so much. So it's a convertible Mustang in presidential blue. It's this beautiful, really transfixing blue color. And what I love about this car is it has universal appeal. Right? I can hoon around Ferrari or a Lambo and everyone's like, oh, you sounds like banker. But I hop in that car and everyone, young and old, men, women, you know, just everyone loves it. I wish I had this car when I was single because it's really good at the lights. Just saying.
Just saying.
No, it's a really great universal car. It's not that expensive, but it's in the middle of a restoration, which is, oh my God. For anyone who's restored a classic car, you know, you set a time and you have a budget and it times that by about 30 and you won't be disappointed. So we're nearly there, 8 months on. It's still, we're waiting on 2 more parts to come out of the States. But that's a beautiful car. Before it was being restored, I used it as my daily drive. It's pretty cool, the school pickup, I've got to say. amongst an ocean of SUVs.
You're the cool mum.
Yeah, I'm known as the Mustang lady, and it's just cool. It's not an expensive car. It's not a.
Well, before you had it restored.
I had it restored. Yes,
Yeah.
we're not having the restoration.
Yeah.
It's like investing in a house, right? It's like, you overcapitalize on a house, and you're like, is that worth it? But I truly love it. When she's in the garage, her name's Betty, after Bette Davis.
Oh, cool.
Big blue eyes.
Yeah.
A little kiss goodnight in the garage before I go.
Do you know, this is that love of cars, is something so special that there's an emotional attachment that's deep within you with that car, and how it makes you feel and how it makes you behave, you know.
It's really interesting. So I tend to gravitate a lot towards Mustangs. So I had the absolute pleasure this week of being in an Eleanor, which is the car in Gone in 60 Seconds that Cage lusts after and then nicks. And
wasn't that a fastback?
Yeah, 67.
Yeah.
Back, yeah. So I still had that real muscle car feel. Same, interesting with Mustangs. So 64 to 66 are, in my view, a little bit pony. They're quite delicate as muscle cars can be. Is that oxymoron for you? A delicate muscle car?
I love that, a bit pony.
67 to 68 to me is very much the sweet spot. And 69, they start getting too muscular and too sort of tough and robust. So they feature a lot in movies. So obviously in Bullitt, Steve McQueen drives a 68 fast in Highland Green. Eleanor is a 67 fastback. That was a really, really fabulous car. And back to how it makes you feel invincible. What I do in those cars, driving those cars, I get in and I feel like a real boss lady, and I really love it.
Makes you taller.
Well, that would be a bonus, yes.
It's interesting though, isn't it? It's like a lot of people will say, oh, you know, a car just gets me from A to B, don't really care about it. Yet, when they see something like, you know, your Betty, they still turns their head. You know, it's like it still turns their head. They still get a pang. There's something there that makes a difference.
Yeah. And I take a lot of people for drives in it, and little boys love it, and big boys too.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, because it's just, you know, it's got a real vroom vroom.
Do you let Tom drive it? Ideally not.
I do, of course. Yeah, I do, of course. It goes well with all his Hawaiian shirts, the kind of mixes.
On the car question, or car questions, Goodwood.
Oh, fabulous. Oh, you know, I have never been, so that's on my bucket list.
Neither have I. It's on my bucket list as well.
You know what? I was supposed to go in this thing called COVID, and lockdown happened, but I had the great privilege of being in Woking in England at McLaren's headquarters, driving a GT from Woking to the Geneva Motor Show, and then COVID hit and all those plans were thrown into disarray, including getting to Goodwood, which would just, I mean, that festival of cars would be amazing. On a much more parochial note, I MC Flinders Motoring Show, which is pretty hokey and local and very interesting. It was like a cross between Midsummer's Murder and Doc Martin episode. It was really very colourful local characters. But again, I saw everyone with their classic cars. It's a bit like dog shows and people with dog breeds. You know, they all think theirs is the best.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's people with, you know, late 60s Porsche 911s like best, and there's the, you know, the Alfa Romeo group, and there's, you know, the guy with the old Datsun, and I just love that everyone comes with their own classic, I guess prejudices is a strong word to use, but
I think you're right.
Where they come from, but I kind of like that, you know, they all think theirs is the best.
I think the same when you go to the track, like, you know, and it's a track day, and you kind of have everybody appreciates everybody else's car, but you have the guys who are, you know, they'll all be around the McLaren garage, or they'll all be around the GT3s, or they'll all be around whatever it is. It's a kind of, whilst there's a high appreciation, there's the appreciation of their own piece, you know, like their own thing. I drive a Mini. So I drive a Mini Cooper W, you know, like hatch. Anyway, with that interesting story, I bought it from Ferrari. I'd like to thank Stetson Hats Australia for providing my amazing collection of open road Stetson hats. Since 1865, John B. Stetson has been crafting legendary headwear, adorning the heads of Western icons like Annie Oakley and George Custer. The open road hat debuted in 1937, beloved by artists, outlaws, presidents alike. Its timeless style fits the setting from city streets to open plains. Whether in the cab of a truck or my trusty Mini Cooper, the open road is all style. If you think hats aren't for you, you just haven't found the right one yet. Discover yours at stetsonaustralia.com or stetson.com if you're in the USA. Thanks, Stetson, for your support. Please share your Stetson moment by emailing me your photo to talkdesign@gmail.com. Let's celebrate the timeless allure of Stetson together. In COVID, and when I bought it from Ferrari had their biggest bumper year in Brisbane that year. Like I can't remember how many they sold, but they'd outsold like 3 times what they normally would. And I said, why have you got a Mini? And they said, well, first of all, cars have got expensive and we can't get stock. So we're selling whatever we can get our hands on. And we cleaned out a garage. And we were cleaning out a garage for a person who said, I'm going fully Ferrari. And in there was my JCW. And so,
waiting for you right there. Isn't
yeah.
that amazing? From a Ferrari, that's quite the tale, isn't it? Getting a Mini from a Ferrari. See, Minis are a car with their massive own personality, really. And, they've been in starting films as well, had a leading role in films, which is great. And a little bit like perhaps the Citroën DS,
Yep.
that's a really iconic car as well. So, yeah, we're back to that point of iconic car designs that stand the test of time.
I find it very hard. Like I look at the Minis and I go, I'm kind of stuck on that model because I'm not liking what I see in the future design. And so I really struggle with that. I'm like, and mine's a manual. It's not an automatic.
Manuals. That's another thing I'm really sad about, the loss of manual cars, because I love the visceral feel of changing gears, the sense of autonomy you have with driving. And that's another thing with cars, whether they're electric or not, the loss of autonomous driving where the car does everything for you. Like lane assist freaks me out. Like I'm like, and also the other thing, maybe I'm a bit of a control freak when it comes to cars, but cruise control, but adaptive cruise control. I'm like, no, I don't want you telling me how fast and slow I can go. I don't like that. So, and I've got this theory that people are worse drivers today because the car does so much for them. You drive my 68 Mustang, man. I mean, you
real.
100% focus on driving. There's no time to be on your phone or doing your makeup or staring out the window or
doing your eyes or
eating breakfast. No, there's no time or opportunity for that. So yeah, I love manual cars.
Is it got power steering?
The Mustang.
Yeah.
It's about an 80-point turn at the school.
Yeah, right. Show us your biceps.
Yeah, look at that.
Look at that. Look at that. If you're only listening to this, come and see it on YouTube, because trust me, that's worth seeing. That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, it's no power steering. I know some of the old Corvettes at that age had power steering, but they get a bit wobbly when they got going fast because of the fact that the power steering wasn't adaptive. It didn't.
Yes, correct. Interesting though about that updating car. So with part of this restoration, I am putting some cushy things in, like heating, aircon, and sound system, right? So it'll be under a sort of old looking sort of sound system, but it will be Bluetooth. And in a convertible in Melbourne, you do need heating and cooling. You just do. But then I was like, I needed the original steering wheel, and the 67 has this beautiful wooden steering wheel. It's just so cool. It's like if you looked up classic car steering wheel,
it would be there.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, the 68 Mustang, that in a nod to safety, they had this ugly steering wheel. It's got like a pad across the middle, just in case you break the but it really was ugly. So I'm like, right, do I stay true to design and put in the 68 steering wheel? Or do I put in what looks better. And I think this is a conundrum faced by a lot of designers, which is, are you to the era, or are you going to do what looks good, or can you do both, combine both? So some smarty pants pointed out the car had been converted from left-hand drive to right-hand drive anyway. So the claim I had to being a purist had gone out the window. So I may as well go for the 67. So
I just looked it up it is the one I thought.
That's the beautiful 67. And if you look up 68 Mustang steering wheel.
I don't want to. It's got a pad in it, doesn't it?
So anyway, so that's a really, so, but you know, these are the things that take up a lot of my brain real estate.
I go, the thing is if you're not going to, that is quite a difference, the 68, isn't it, with the big piece across the middle. Yeah, I go to the fact that you're not keeping it as a fully authentic renovation to a car. Then play a little. I would buy the 68 steering wheel and I'd put it in a box.
Yeah.
So that if I ever had you're never going to sell it. Forget it.
No,
I wouldn't buy that. I'd put it on the wall and say, that's why I don't have it in my car.
Right, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, you know, if you ever sell it, you're not selling it. What's that discussion about?
Yeah.
So Goodwood's on your list. And I think Goodwood, I've never been, but it's been on my list for way too long. And it's one of those things that I go, you know, you've just got to go. You've just got to do it. I watch it online all the time. It makes my heart sing, you know, the revving of a motor and the level of the drivers, the skill of the drivers. Everything about it's worth the ticket to go and see it.
Do it.
It's on the list. Trust me, it's on the list. Tell me about your podcast.
Yeah,
Big change. You and your husband, so Tom and Elise, have a podcast together called the Elliott Exchange. Tell me about that.
So my husband is we call it shock jock. He's a radio announcer. He's on mornings on 3AW down here in Melbourne. And I've done a lot of radio and TV. Podcasting is a totally different language. It's really interesting. TV is very scripted, obviously, and pre-recorded. Radio is a bit more you, not versus the audience, but you've got centre stage. So it's a bit more like theatre, I imagine, which you've got one take, you've got to get it right, but you've got a captive audience. Podcast is just far more conversational. So we have a husband-wife podcast. And I actually liken it a bit to therapy because I think in this really busy modern day, you end up living parallel lives when you're both busy and you've got kids and you've got lives and you live these parallel lives. You don't sort of connect.
Yeah.
So each week we have to sit down for an hour and have a discussion like we're having about all manner of things, whether it be how to deal with parental situations, relationship situations, jealousies and war and, you know, complicated questions we get and talk about it. And Tom's like, oh, I didn't realize you were funny. And I'm like, I didn't realize you had such a knowledge. And I'm like, what? So it's actually been quite good. It's one of the only husband-wife podcasts. We're up to episode 89. And so something's going right. So that's through 9 Radio and it's drops every Wednesday morning. But we keep it a nice tight 20 minutes.
Oh, you keep it it's commuter time?
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. I think there's long form.
Correct.
And then there's short and sharp. And I started with like 20 minutes and then I want to talk for longer than that. And most of mine are probably an hour and 15 or something like that.
Rotating guests, so it's just us. So each week you got to keep.
There's one that I listen to, and I've got them coming on my podcast in a week or so, and they're called Second Studio Pod, and they're an architectural couple. They're in Fame Architecture in Los Angeles, and they did this Second Studio Pod. It's them, both of them, and they interview guests as well. But they do these midnight rambles, like
just chatting.
Yeah,
I think that's the key is that. Keeping it conversational and not sort of scripted and not.
How often do you throw them under the bus?
Oh, it's great. Often, weekly.
And what happens to him when he throws you under the bus?
I'm made of tough stuff. I've been 30 years in media. I like to think I am to use the word I used for Mustangs earlier, a little robust.
A little bit robust, not a pony. I think it's awesome. Like, and I've listened to a few episodes, and again, I love the conversationalist. Just, it's real life shit. It's happening in everybody's life. And I don't think my wife would ever agree to doing a podcast with me. If she did, we would talk for it would probably double or triple the amount of time we're talking in a week.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, and I think that's why it's really good having that for us, being able to sort of chat a bit. And, people send in the funniest emails, and some of them are great. Like, my wife and I like different holiday spots. Is it all right to holiday separately? Or, just funny, I guess, relationship questions. And I always preface it by saying we will not solve them, but we'll discuss them. That will probably complicate them, but yeah, food for thought. There you go.
I think it's fun to be that open, and it's not scripted.
Yeah.
It's like you can refuse to answer something, or you can refuse to discuss it. But at some point, you've also got an audience that goes, why won't you answer the hard questions? Or every time it gets like that, they'll pull you up, they'll jerk you back into reality.
Skirting around those issues. But it's interesting, one of the things we say at the start is an Oscar Wilde quote, which is the foundation for every good relationship is conversation. And that is missing a lot. And I see that out with people all on their phones, and I saw recently a restaurant in, I think, Italy, perhaps, that offers everyone a free bottle of wine if they come in without their phones, and put them in a bowl at the start of the night. And I like that concept because, at night, everyone goes off to their respective rooms on their own devices. So we're connected more than ever to this and not to our families. So, yeah.
Saying that with phones, and look, obviously people listen to your podcast on the phone as well, and they listen to you on radio. They don't get to see you. They watch you on TV, but they don't necessarily get to see you on all those other things. They can choose. But a car show about cars that is not visual probably lacks a bit.
Yeah, correct. So we're in the middle of filming a show called Cool Cars.
Yep.
And the two O's in cool are two wheels. See, that was my little design addition.
Right.
So
I'm making a note and drawing myself a picture.
So good. That was really classy. And from a design perspective, so that goes to air on 7 May, I think probably July. So watch this space.
Awesome. Cool Cars. I love it.
You're right. That would not really work. There's a few motoring podcasts and radio shows, but I think they're good for questions like, EV versus electric, manual transmission versus automatic, those sort of questions. But, I can't.
Technical rather than passionate.
Yeah, I can't test drive a, beautiful old car and get that
growl.
That passion across. Yeah.
So take me to surfing. What inspired you to get in the water? And for the listeners that weren't there when we started recording, Elise is going surfing this afternoon. The water will only be 13 degrees. And I sit here in Queensland while she sits in Victoria, and 13 degrees is an ice bath to me. But that's going to be her afternoon. Tell me, why surfing? Was it to outdo your husband's shirts? What was the go?
So actually, my husband did surf and would disappear for 3 hours, and I'd just sit on the beach with a Chico roll in my hand, and he'd come back elated with this look of joy on his face and just so at one with himself and the universe. And I'm like, I want some of that. So I took it up only 3.5 years ago, but we had this great thing called Urban Surf down in Melbourne, which is a wave pool where they generate waves. And it was a really great way to learn to surf because in a session of, say, an hour, you get up to 19 waves.
Yeah.
Plus, you don't have to battle to get them. And I think, without being reverse sexist, I think inherently women are more polite in a surf lineup, and I certainly am. So in the ocean, I'd be like, oh, no, you get this wave. No, you get this one. I'll get the next one. No, it's all right. I'll wait here. And
you'd be all lovey, all nice. Yeah.
Whereas at urban surf, it's your
It's
wave.
your wave.
You get a wave a go, which is great. Plus, they change the size of waves over the course of a day. So I started on a massive foam ocean liner on the white water and thought I was so bloody ace. I'm like, woohoo! I'm standing up for 2 seconds. And then I progressed to the next setting, which was cruiser, then progressive turns. Now I'm on intermediate advanced turns, and I've gone from an ocean liner to an 8-foot to a 7.4 to a 6.8, which is technically a shortboard. So it's been quite the journey. I've documented it, falls and all, which is good. It requires dedication and passion. It's so humiliating at times. It's so soul-crushing and humbling. But the flip side is, it is the most awesome, extraordinary pursuit. I have never done anything that brings me such joy. I'm a bit high octane, as you've probably guessed, in my life. So this is very centering. I've never sort of really been a yoga type. I always found at the end of the Shavasana where they say empty your mind, and my mind's like one of those card dispensing machines at a casino, just going, thinking all the things I should be doing. The beauty of surfing is it really does empty my mind. So for that 1 hour, it's just me and the waves. And I don't think about anything else. I don't try and sort out things. I'm not plagued by anything. I just am in the moment. And for that, I think it's one of the most wonderful adjuncts to a busy life. And I am so thrilled I persisted, because there were times where I'd just sit in a surf car park and have a sook thinking.
Chico roll and steam the windows up.
Yeah. I cannot do this. I just cannot do this. It's just too hard. But then you just got to, as they say, get back on the horse. I got back on the board, and I've really, really loved it. Yeah. As evidenced by the fact I'm going out for a cold surf today.
Oh, I think it's worth it. Like
3 wetsuit. You wouldn't even own one. 4 mil.
Not anymore. I used to.
And a hood and boots and gloves.
I've only ever surfed in a hoodie once. I've surfed in booties and gloves before. Gloves not very often. But I've surfed 4 threes. I used to live in England, and so I used to surf around Wales and Cardiff and Mumbles and places like that. Also, California's really cold.
Interesting. Yes, it is.
Yeah. So
the waters there are cold. So I love, look, nothing beats the ocean. I guess it's a bit like manual versus automatic transmission, looking at ocean versus urban surf. Do you like that? I always use analogies. Always.
It's so good.
So in the ocean, you've got that sense of, it's just amazing being out there, and you don't really know what each wave will hold. So just when you think you've got the hang of it, and every day is different. So I surfed Saturday and Sunday in the ocean, and they were totally different surfs, totally different.
Yeah.
Wind was different, wave size was different.
Just the push, just the shape.
Push, some have more push. Sometimes I can't get on any. Yeah. So I think that's part of the surprise and mystery of the ocean, which I like.
I love the ocean because you actually have to paddle out. And there isn't a free version of that unless you get taken out on a jet ski. There's no free version. You've got to actually put the work in, and the better a paddler you become, the better the waves you get. And it's kind of like, I've been surfing for over 20 years, so I'm so used to plotting my way out from the beach and then giving it a go. And the bigger it is, or the gnarlier it is, it's the more complicated the journey out's going to be, and more the challenge to get out there with dry hair.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, a lot of fun. And I love the fact that you do publish a lot on your Instagram with it, and I think it's awesome for the sport. Yeah,
sports and all. Actually, it was my husband that surfed over my surfboard and sliced it in 3.
But he bought you a new one, right?
Oh, we got it repaired. So, but I'll put that on when I lose fins. When I come off, I'll put me coming off on waves. How beautiful it is at sunrise. And I think that, look, as I said, journey is such a hackneyed phrase, but my surfing journey has been a real one, and I think I'd love to inspire more women to do it. I don't think because you're a certain age or a certain sex or whatever, you can't do it. I'm a little disheartened by how few women are there in the lineup, either in the ocean or urban surf. I would love to see more women. And it's so great. It's great for your body. It's great for your mind. It's just, I don't see a downside. I know
No, I'm with you.
Sharks, but that's a conversation for a different day. And if you didn't surf because you're scared of sharks, you wouldn't drive because you're scared of having a stack. So
yeah, if sharks is your reason not to go in the water, then you should actually get some therapy. It's not enough of a reason. I know time-wise we have to be careful here. I want to ask one last question. Your favorite place and space in your own home, and why, and what emotion does it give you?
Oh, my garage. I know that's so bad. I know I know, right? Most people's got this little nook for reading books or my bed. I work out in my garage. I call it my prison gym. There's a great photo, not great, but illuminating photo of me working out with wetsuits hanging on one side, my Mustang in the back, and I'm lifting weights in there. So I do my training in there, my wetsuits hang in there, and my Mustang, whenever it comes back from the store, or go 9-eyes in there. And it's sort of like the heart center for me. It's where all the action happens. So I'd have to say my garage. Isn't that terrible?
No, I think
really official rev-head to say that.
It is a very official rev-head. If you said one emotion, what would it be summed up with?
Oh, just high energy. Oh, sorry, do that. So I'll say that again. I think it would be exhilarating.
Exhilarating.
I
ask this of a lot of people, and I love it. I love it because houses need to respond to people's personalities and have to create spaces for them. Yeah. And, you know, it's a space that you go into every day, whether it's for a workout, get a wetsuit, or get in the car. If it can do that for you, when you drive home, it's giving you an emotional charge. When you go out, it gives you an emotional charge. It's a great transition point that sets you up for the life that you live outside of the house and sets you up for the life you live inside the home. So,
that's beautiful. Can you write that on a plaque, and I'll put that?
I'll send it to you as a quote.
I'll put it up on the wall.
I think it's fantastic. Elise, fantastic to talk to you. I'm looking forward to getting in the surf with you. And also, if you're headed to Goodwood, you need to let me know, because that might be the time it gets ticked off my bucket list.
Just do it. You know what I say, Adrian? You get one body and you get one life. That's it. And it's so fleeting. So that bucket list, I'm getting through it, but Goodwood should be on ours.
It's definitely on mine, and it is on yours. It's just I keep putting other things in front of it, because I've got to go to Europe to do it, and I've got other things to do in the States or whatever, and the time gets squeezed, and I go, oh, I haven't got time to do everything. Yeah. But maybe that's just a bad omen. Maybe I should just say I've got time to do everything, get it done.
Procrastination.
Yep. Travis Bell, when you listen, you can tell us how to get all these things done on your bucket list. Thank you so much, hon.
My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning into our conversation. I hope it left you both informed and inspired. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen, and please don't hesitate to share your design thoughts with me. It's always a joy to hear from you. If you're like me and crave a deeper dive into design thinking, coupled with a love for travel and adventure, consider one of my architectural adventures. Join me and some of my wonderful design friends and embark on a journey of a lifetime. Apply for an unforgettable design experience at adrianramsey.com. With our clients spanning the globe, I firmly believe behind every great project are great people. If you're a great person and seeking to turn your dream into a reality, I'd be honored to design your home with you. Why not join the ranks of our exceptional clients, and let's make your heart sing. Reach out to me at studio@ardesignhouse.com. That's studio@ardesignhouse.com, and let's get a conversation going and make your heart sing.